Welcome to Renovating Real Estate. I'm Sandy McMaster. Each week here we renovate the way real estate operators think, decide, and execute. We do that here using the identity ops method because most agents and brokers never operationalize what truly makes them different. And today we're talking about why agents will leave in the future, not why they've left in the past, why they're going to leave in the future. And I'm going to go ahead and say something that may ruffle a few feathers because it really points at something, or it doesn't point at, it threatens the most common industry narrative. It's not your split. Let's talk about it. Okay, so here's the truth. Every week, I talk with agents, brokers, trainers, and the conversations are always private. And I have hesitated to talk about this week's topic. I've hesitated to publish this and record this pod because I was afraid that somebody who I've recently talked with may feel like this was about them. But I keep having the same conversation week over week over week. And I will tell you this piece in Substack, which I always subsequently talk about on the podcast, this has been written for more than a month. So if you are a broker, trainer, agent, owner, whatever, and I've talked to you, this is not about you. I assure you. It is unbelievable that I keep having the same conversation. So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is I keep having the same conversation that's about the same problems. But here's the good news. You are not alone. So when we talk about why agents are leaving in the future and some of the most problematic structural issues I see, understand that this is not about you and others are having the same problem. And so I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse, but, you guys should know this. If your organizational chart, if your leadership, org chart has not changed in over 20 years, you are not leading a modern professional service-based firm. It's time to evolve. And I think most of you have been forced to evolve lately, and it probably feels a lot like sandpaper. But if you are one of those independents, small, medium, force has not, the circumstances has not forced you into change lately. Just because you haven't changed, just because change hasn't been forced on you, you've got to recognize that you are running a legacy machine and you're hoping that your culture is going to make up the difference, and it's not. And I needed to say this on a podcast, and I needed to just get this out because I'm having the same conversations over and over again. You might be too, inside your four walls. And there might be disagreement among leadership people. That's okay. Keep having those difficult conversations because culture cannot compensate for missing roles. And these roles are very important. So here is a question for you. And I say this with all the love in my heart, if you walked into your own brokerage tomorrow and asked, who's responsible for helping agents build a business they do not eventually hate, who would that be? Who's responsible for helping your agents truly build their business? I'm not talking about onboarding, and I'm not talking about outsourcing. 99.99999% of the time, it's going to be the broker. And if I'm wrong, you guys will tell me in the comments. But if we agree, that would mean we are expecting a broker to do the following: run the office staff, ensure compliance, manage overhead, train new agents, retain veteran agents, recruit newbies, make sure they're not completely lost, strategize with agents who are in the middle of their developmental careers, learn AI adoption. Oh, and convince agents that AI is not the devil. Enhance the culture, do identity work, turn agents into brands, put out fires, do the deal doctoring, create systems, SOPs. Oh my God, really? I mean, you guys are probably laughing in the car or wherever you might be, but that is the list that brokers are tasked with. And if I have that right, that's ludicrous. It is ridiculous. One person cannot do all of that. And pretending that they can is why agents will leave your firm in the future. That's a fact. Because your agents, they are customers and they pay with a split instead of a wire, but it's the same transaction. And if you or your brokerage cannot clearly show what the split buys or deliver what an agent actually needs, your split becomes more like a tax. And when it feels like a tax, people optimize to leave. So that's all the doom and gloom. Here's the new leadership team. The deliverable agents are going to be looking for. And I know, why do I know this? Because I talked to them. I know, and I am one. So the deliverable agents will be looking for, and I'll give you just their overarching purpose and the questions that these roles should own and be responsible for. First up, maybe most importantly, a chief brand officer, a CBO, chief brand officer. This person should be your internal architect. They are tasked with identity and the internal experience inside your four walls. Because retention is not free coffee and pizza and free food. It's not. It's identity and environment, my friends. So the questions this chief brand officer, the ones they should own and be responsible for are: who are the agents becoming here? What business model fits their wiring? And what's it like to be on the other side of us after onboarding stops? So I'm talking year 2 through year 5. What's it like in your firm for those agents? Because if I'm not mistaken, and again, you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, most firms leverage for the newbie agent and they think recruiting is very important, which it is. And that onboarding training is absolutely vital, 100%. So people have optimized for that. And then you have the agents who have figured it out and they're doing, running amazing businesses and they have high volume, and brokerages have figured out how to keep them happy. But then there's the messy in the middle. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the majority population of most offices. Those agents doing between 2 million and maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15 million. What's there for them? You've got the newbies under your wing, and you've got the seasoned agents who have their business models all figured out and they're humming machines. But what about the middle? What's it like to be on the other side of us during that phase? Big question. So that's the chief brand, it should be the chief brand officer's job there. That is internal focus. Okay, next up, chief marketing officer. This incredibly vital role in your company, this is your external voice. This is to the consumers. This is the consumer facing or the public brand positioning. And a lot of these franchisors, they need this person to keep that amazing franchise messaging going. That is a very important role, but it's not the internal messaging. Oh, no, no. These people are serving, the agents should look at a chief marketing officer as an example of brand management, staying consistent. The kinds of questions a chief marketing officer may own is, how is our brand being perceived in the eyes of the consumer? So separate, this is the external expression of the franchise brand, or whatever your company is these days. How is the brand being perceived? That's a question the chief marketing officer should own. And also, what makes our value proposition distinct to consumers, not to agents? I think a lot of chief marketing officers are also, over indexed, that they should be managing the recruiting messages to agents as well as the consumer message, the perception of the brand. Those are two very distinct and different lines of communication. So the chief marketing officer, they should be really concerned with, are we communicating our brand promise consistently and broadly across all channels? Agents should look at a CMO and go, oh, I see them channeling the same thread through all these different, and I see how they're doing it. It's just, but it's not internal, and it's not the agents. The agents have to have their brand message. But this is how we all create leverage, is leveraging a corporate message, but that's not the internal agent message. So there's one other very important role that, as far as I know, doesn't exist anywhere, and that is learning architects. Now, in my world, there are 3, and each learning architect that should be in place at your place of business, you only need 3 if you are claiming to nurture and train all 3 types. So let's just review what all 3 types there are. There is the transactional agent, the relational one, or the identity-based one. So if your recruiting promise to agents is like, we've got you, you can choose any model you want, we've got your training, we've got your back. Well, that means you're going to have a transactional track. You're going to have to be able to train speed, conversion, lead purchase and management. If you have a relational track, if you say, we've got you, and you practice a relational business, all the third-party systems, you guys know the most common ones I'm talking about. If you say that's who you are as a company, okay, then you should have that learning architect there, ready to train. If your agent says, oh, that's the business model I'm going to choose, okay, great. We've got somebody who can really help come in alongside you and help guide you through that. So that relational track, that to me, it's a little bit like teaching to the test. If you've read the book, if you've been to the seminars, if you've, it's like, so long as you check the boxes that they tell you to check, okay, you're doing it right. Okay, great. All right. So you've got to have that relational track, that relational architect ready and willing to assist them through the third-party system of your choice, or of their choice. And then lastly, the identity-based track. This is all about brand positioning. This is based way more on fit than it is likability or counting calls. This is about authentic marketing, and it's about teaching true business owner basics. So you should have that person. And, because after year 2, you're either teaching or cheerleading. Just do more, just be likable, go volunteer, yay. So I'm not poo-pooing. That was a little obnoxious, I'm sorry. Okay, but the chief or the critical thing to remind anybody who is in charge of hiring and shaping this direction inside of a brokerage, you should definitely recognize that none of these architects replace onboarding new agents. These trainers should not be onboarding new agents. So I've heard a lot of firms who just, really go the distance on training and on the new onboarding. And I get it. But we all know, if you're in the industry, you and I both know that doesn't, a full agent is not made in 12 weeks. They're not. This takes years. So I think we should start being honest about that. So when you start breaking down these decisions, it immediately turns this decision into a forcing function. What do you believe as a firm? Who are you really for here? Because if you say we're for everybody and you don't have training for everybody, that might become a little dicey. And when you hire a specialist, you're committing to a business model, and you can't fake it. They're going to know. And so this becomes an enormous investment, both in time and money. And agents can feel it when you're faking it. And today, most brokerages, at least from my personal experience, most brokerages don't know how to train because they haven't made the most basic decision first, which is, who are we for really? If you get this right, there are 3 possible outcomes that happen around recruitment changes, retention changes, and profitability changes, which I know is so important. Let's start with the recruitment changes, though. When you start really dialing in these decisions and making them, recruitment changes. It sounds more like, here you're joining a developmental program, a learning ecosystem, not a desk and not a short-term launching pad. Retention changes because you're going to be having, finally, the right conversations. And profitability changes because the brokerage stops guessing and buying tools that agents don't use. And instead, they're investing in roles that act a lot like compounding interest. It's just your compounding market advantage. So, quick question, quick little reality check here. What role is missing in your brokerage right now? What role? I would love to know in the comments. I can tell you I think I know based on the conversations, but drop a comment and tell me why. And here's a better question. What roles or services do you pay for now that are more legacy minded, more looking backward? And what roles or services should you pay for given AI advancements? So much, or AI should be picking up some services for you to give you the bandwidth, to give you the room and the capacity to make some pretty significant changes. So I think it's a worthy question to sit with. What role are you missing and why? I think those are worthy ones to sit with. So, beginning to wrap this up, If, my friends, you're a broker, your split isn't the only recruitment carrot you have. Your structure is. What do you offer? What you offer could be, instead of your split, it could be who you're helping an agent become. And trust me, tools don't create loyalty. Developmental experience does. And if you're an agent listening, stop negotiating for perks inside of a broken system. Start evaluating the architecture of the firm. Because brokerages that build this now will define the next era. So until next week, don't just renovate your marketing, renovate your model, because you can't recruit your way out of a structural problem. There is more on Substack. You can read the full essay on Substack. You just search for Renovating Real Estate there. And if you want the operating system behind this, that, my friends, is what Identity Ops is for. You can search for identityops.co on the World Wide Web, or just go to sandymcmaster.com. And if this hit a nerve, don't be afraid to be the one to start an uncomfortable conversation. Share it with a broker or a leader who needs to hear it. Until next week, take care.